Welcome to the Life Leadership Podcast with myself, Leila Singh, all things coaching, career and personal branding. This podcast is for ambitious career professionals like you, wanting to create a life of choice and freedom, to be, do and have more through overcoming limitations, to develop new perspectives and insights, and to redefine your success, be that in work, health, relationships, and so much more. Hi there, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining from today, and welcome to Live with Leila. My name is Leila Singh and I am a leadership, career and personal brand coach. And my mission is to impact 100,000 people's career trajectory beyond what they thought possible. Why? Because I am passionate about helping you to create your brand, your personal brand, and to realize what is truly possible for you when it comes to your career and your life. How do I do this? Through helping you to harness your leadership potential. I coach high achieving, ambitious and driven mid to senior level professionals working in the technology industry who are looking to get promoted to achieve peak performance and a standout personal brand, all by showing up as the best version of yourself, what I call life leadership. Okay, so what's today's topic? Today's topic is all about delivering engaging and compelling presentations. Who's heard of death by PowerPoint? In fact, who's experienced death by PowerPoint? We've all been there at some point. And the challenge with this is not only the fact that we switch off, it becomes boring, we lose the focus and start scrolling on our phones or checking our emails. It's not just about that. It's a fact that the message is not getting through. The person who's delivering death by PowerPoint is perhaps reading off a slide. The slide is overkill with loads of detail in it, or the speaker is just simply not engaging the audience. It's not a compelling message, which means that it gets lost. People switch off, they don't pay attention, the message simply gets lost. And also for you as a speaker, it isn't positioning you as an authority in your field. So what is the alternative? The alternative is having the ability to deliver engaging and compelling presentations which can markedly accelerate your career trajectory. And that is why I'm speaking about that today. So here's the thing with this: outstanding presentations and the skills that come with that are a powerful tool for anyone who needs to speak in front of an audience, whether it was in your career, in your business. Why? Because it helps you to be able to position yourself as an authority, someone who's credible, as confident, has certainty in themselves and their subject matter, and also stand out in your role within your team, within your organization. So why is effective communication important? Communication skills, presentation skills, moreover, are often overlooked by many who receive what I call superficially positive feedback. Why am I saying this? Because I've had many clients over the years who, when we've touched upon this topic and I've asked whether we'd like to look at that as something to develop on and to improve on, often I've had the feedback that actually, oh no, I've always had really great feedback on my presentations. However, the feedback has come from people who are perhaps not trained in public speaking, who feel that whatever they've seen is the best it can be, and that's it. By the way, I'm guilty of that in the sense that I've had that feedback when I was in the corporate space, that when I saw feedback on my presentations, often I'd be told, yeah, it was really good, it was really good. So I thought, okay, yeah, I'm good at them. But actually, we can always improve. Even if we're at the best, we can always improve by 1%. So here's the thing: if you have received that feedback that you are really good when it comes to public speaking, that's fantastic. I invite you to look at and explore how you can be even better, because often the feedback comes from people who, as I said, that's their experience of it. It's a good presentation, but is it actually compelling? Is it delivering the message across eloquently and making an impact? And that is what we want when we want to leave people with a certain feeling, making a particular decision, whatever the outcome is. We want that to be effective. So be mindful of superficial positive feedback. And the reason I'm sharing that point with you is because I had a client recently who said that to me a few months ago. And so we parked it. We thought, okay, it's not really something that needs to be explored. However, when he then shared with me that he had just recently delivered a presentation and it was online, it was recorded, I said, okay, let's have a look at it. And to be fair, it was good presentation compared to many. However, it could have been 100 times better. And he recognized that after we broke it down and went through it step by step and looked at the various components of it to see what could have been improved. And now he's able to deliver the very same presentation in a far more compelling and engaging way than was done originally. So this is why effective communication is important, because it's often overlooked in terms of the skills and the ability. When dissected, when it's pulled apart in the way that I have done with many of my clients over the years, you can go from a good speaker to a great speaker, and you can get to elevate your delivery to a level that not only informs people, but also captivates your audience and persuades and influences them as well. It also positions you well when it comes to your career, because as I said, you're seen as someone who's confident, who's articulate, who can eloquently convey your information. You can get your message across in a compelling and engaging way. You can hold the room, you can control that room and have people solely focused on you and not even thinking about scrolling their phones or checking their emails. And that is what you want. And as we know, let me ask you, do you fear public speaking? Does it create anxiety, nervousness, dread? What is the feeling that comes up for you? You may be aware that 75% on average of people fear public speaking, also known as glossophobia. And this leads to people shying away from wanting to present in front of an audience, or when they have that opportunity to do so, they'll often talk very, very quickly, simply because they just want to be able to sit back down again and take the attention off of themselves, the nerves and the focus on themselves and how they're feeling, how they're looking, how they're sounding, whether they'll remember the content that they're sharing, what people are thinking about them, so people's judgment and opinions. All of that noise is occurring in here, and that is what creates a lot of the anxiety and the stress and the fear. It's all about the judgment, the self-judgment, the judgment from others, the opinions, the criticism and the self-criticism. All of that is what creates that feeling of anxiety, of stress, of fear, of actually simply not wanting to have to get up in front of an audience and speak. Here's the thing with that. When we take the focus away from ourselves and onto our audience and onto our message and onto our outcomes for the presentation, then we're taking the focus away from ourselves and away from the things that are creating and causing that stress, anxiety, and fear. So that is something I invite you to consider going forward when it comes to standing up and speaking in front of an audience. Focus on your outcomes, focus on your audience, focus on your message. The transformation that this creates can lead to that reduced anxiety and feeling so much more relaxed. And in your presentation, your engagement, your rapport will come across, your professionalism, your engagement with the audience, the passion, the impact, the inspiration, the influence, all of those things will come through far more easily when we're not focused on ourselves, when the anxiety is diminished because we've shifted our focus. And most importantly, we then create a memorable and an impactful experience for our audience, which is what you want. Would you agree? Let me know in the comments. Why does this matter? Consider this. You have two teams tasked with the same sales pitch to a potential client. The same product, the same price, the same delivery time. And one team drones through the slides, reading off of them in monotone, perhaps, not really looking at the audience or engaging with them, asking questions, getting their input, getting their feedback as you're going through the information, asking questions and so forth. While the other team engages in a way that actively brings the audience into that experience. Who would you more likely choose to buy from? And the answer to this often underscores the critical role that your presentation style plays in your professional success. And obviously I'm talking there about sales teams, but even if you are delivering an internal presentation, you are still effectively selling yourself within your team, within the organization, and from a career point of view. Remember, it's all about perception. And if people's perceived view of you when you stand up to deliver information or a message about something within the workplace, you want to be seen as having that confidence and certainty in your subject and the ability to communicate effectively. So what I want to share with you today is some strategies that you can take away immediately from this and integrate them, is the word I'm looking for, integrate them into the way that you are delivering engaging and compelling presentations. And if you're doing a great job already, absolutely well done to you. Fantastic, because public speaking is an art, as I've learned over the years, and we can always improve even by 1%. So look at the ways that you can take what I'm going to share now and hone your presentation skills and the way that you deliver to an audience when it comes to your career. So the first one is engaging through questions. Does that make sense to you? When you ask rhetorical questions, it gets people's brains thinking. Begin with a rhetorical question at the start to pique interest and keep the audience engaged throughout the presentation. Again, checking in occasionally. Does this make sense? Would you agree? Asking questions related to the topic, or asking questions about what you're now going to share. So for example, why is this important for you to understand? Here's why. And then you go through your explanation of that. Why do we have these 4 pillars within the workplace? Here's the reason why. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Think about some rhetorical questions that you can bring into play within your already crafted content. You don't need to rewrite your presentation. Just think about how you could adapt the content you have to make the delivery of it more compelling. So that's number 1, engage through questions, both rhetorical and also eliciting a response. Keep the responses simple. Always look to ask questions which you know people will likely agree with. So you want people to be agreeing with you, because the minute they don't, they'll zone out, they'll switch off, and they'll scroll. So think about the kind of questions you can ask where perhaps you're making a generic statement that most people will agree with, and that's the kind of thing that you can say, would you agree with this, as you share it. Second point is clarity and deliberation. So speaking slowly and deliberately to ensure that your message is clear and resonates well with your audience. As I said, oftentimes people rush to speak to deliver the presentation. Why? Because they are nervous, they're anxious, they just want to get it over with and maybe sit back down if they're standing up in front of people. And this is often why that we do this. And the challenge with this is then that people can't keep up with what you're sharing, particularly if it's new information or something they're not familiar with. And then you lose them. So they'll switch off and get distracted. Also, it means you're not getting your message across effectively, and you're not making the impact that you want to, whether it's a sales pitch, whether it's positioning your team or the work that you're doing or a project that you've completed. You want to be able to get that message across. And that means slowing down and speaking with clarity and deliberately with intention as you go through that information and that message. By the way, you might wonder, because many of these lives that I do tend to speak quite quickly, and that is typically because of the limited time that I have to share this information with you. Of course, as I'm sure you're familiar with, you can actually slow it down when you watch this, particularly on replay, because you have the speed that can slow down or speed up, depending on what works for you. So the third point is having that friendly demeanor. So maintaining that smile and making your presentation more approachable and more personable. So oftentimes when we are speaking with all the information in our head that we're trying to regurgitate, we're in our head. And sometimes as a trained speaker, we can notice that, because someone is just trying to remember what they were going to say and what was planned out for them, which means that they're not fully present. And a trained speaker can pick that up from a speaker who is doing that they're not really present in the room and engaged with the audience. What does that mean? It means that the audience have a different experience, a not so great experience of the session, of the speaker, of the overall presentation. So you want to be able to be fully present. Remember to smile. Sometimes it's hard because you're being serious, you're concentrating, it's a serious topic. Smile in terms of engaging with your audience. Next is effective eye contact. Use peripheral vision rather than direct eye contact to make your gaze feel more natural and inclusive to your audience. What do I mean by peripheral vision? It's a little bit like when you're looking, let's say I'm looking right now at my camera, but I'm also aware of what's around me in this room. And similarly, if I was now looking completely focused at the camera, which is what I tend to do when I'm speaking to camera, I'm not aware of what's around me. So if you think about driving, for example, if you're a driver, when you're driving, typically you are in peripheral vision because you have an awareness of what is around you, what's either side of you, and what's in the distance. And also with mirrors, of course, you also know what's behind you. So peripheral vision is not being completely focused just on that road immediately in front of you and not seeing beyond that. You've got that wider vision of what's happening. And that is what you want to be doing with the audience. So it looks as though you're looking directly at one person, but actually you're not really seeing them. You're actually seeing the people in that area that you're looking towards, but actually that person at one point will feel that you're looking at them, which has them feeling included in the conversation. So again, peripheral versus direct eye contact will help with creating the more natural feel to the way that you're looking at people as you're speaking rather than staring them out. Think about dynamic delivery. So the way that you're delivering your content. One of the more important things here that people often overlook is your voice modulation. In other words, having a varied tonality, and also your pace, the speed of your pace in which you're delivering your information, your content, because you want to maintain interest as well as emphasize key points. So keep your delivery dynamic in terms of the modulation of your voice, the way that you're speaking. So avoid monotone. If you're not sure, ask for feedback from someone who you trust, who will be honest with you and give you that feedback that will help you to improve. So the constructive criticism. So varying your tone is really important. Another thing that I always mention to people that's so impactful is ensuring that as you end sentences, that your modulation goes downwards, your tonality goes down and not up. What I mean by that is if you're familiar, for example, with certain accents, the Australian accent is an example of this, where often people's tone will go up at the end. So sometimes even though they're making a statement, it may sound like a question. Now, if you do that when you're presenting, the challenge this brings is that it sounds as though you may be uncertain in what you're saying. So it's lacking certainty, you're lacking confidence. So you go up in your tonality towards the end of a statement. Obviously, if it's a question, you can do so. But if you're making a statement, you do not want to then have your tonality going up at the end as if it sounds like a question. You want to go down. So you sound like you're making your statement with impact and with confidence and with certainty. So that's dynamic delivery. And then visuals, when it comes to the visuals in your slides. So visuals over text. Keep your slides interesting, impactful, and opt for the visually engaging slides. So with diagrams, with images and so forth, a little bit of text, but you want to keep the text down to a minimum. Why? Because the focus is on the message from you. If you put everything on the slide, you might as well just put the slides up and let people read them themselves. Also, if you have too much information on your slides, you will likely be inclined to read off of the slides, which is not a great look. It's okay to look up and refer to your bullet points, but you don't want to be reading from your slides. So your text in your slides act as a prompt for you rather than a script. This is really important. And then you want to have some visual images or diagrams to support what you're sharing. And also keep the slides interesting, but not have people zone out from what you're saying to now stare at the slides and look at all of the images and read all the content like this and not be listening to you. So really think about getting that balance when it comes to slide preparation. And then interactive elements as well. So think about how can you incorporate elements that encourage your audience to interact with you or with each other. Maybe you have a little breakout where they speak to the person next to them. Obviously, the Q&A is an opportunity to create interaction. But all of these small things can create a memorable experience. And with the interactive side, it depends on the context of the presentation that you are delivering. But think about ones where you've had a memorable, impactful experience in a positive way, and think about what was different for those presentations that's created that feeling and that experience for you, and look at how you can bring that into your presentations. So I hope this makes sense. Let me know if you have any questions so far. Pop them in the comments and I will answer them either live here, or if you're watching on replay, I will come back and respond to them as soon as I see them pop up in my notifications. So what are the key takeaways from this session today? Well, first of all, effective communication is more than just speaking. It's about engaging with your audience and making a lasting impact. Simple strategies that I've shared with you, such as using those rhetorical questions and adjusting your voice modulation, can significantly enhance your presentation's effectiveness. So think about how you can improve that, or if it's not something you've considered before, how can you bring that into your presentations? Next, presentation slides. As I said, you want to make these visually appealing yet simple, and keep the focus on aiding the narrative rather than overshadowing it. This is really important. And of course, building rapport with your audience, maintaining a calm and composed demeanor, which means you're not coming across as being really nervous and anxious, can greatly influence your audience perception of you and the receptiveness of you and your message. All of this is important, particularly if you're someone in your career who's looking to move up the ranks, to get promoted, to step into leadership. You want to be coming across really well when it comes to your presentations, because those are your audience that are seeing you. These are people who are probably influential in your career. And the ultimate goal here is to leave your audience with a memorable experience that showcases not only your expertise, but also your ability to effectively communicate, as well as enhancing your personal brand. So adopting these strategies can enable you to ensure that your presentations are not only informative, but they also drive engagement, influence, and career progression. Think about the presentations that you've experienced where you've come away thinking, oh, wow, that was so good. It's not only about the content, it's about the way it's been delivered. It's about the experience that you've had. So how can you bring those things into your own presentations? And remember, it's not what you say, but how you say it that makes the difference, that creates the impact. So this is where I want you to really critique your presentation skills and look at the gaps, look at the things that I've shared today that maybe you've not considered before, and look at the tweaks that you can make to hone your presentation style, so the next time it really stands out, you deliver a compelling message that has people wanting to hear more from you. And ultimately, what I want to end with here is this: transforming your presentation skills from being death by PowerPoint, from being mundane to being memorable, is a strategic advantage when it comes to the competitive working landscape. You want to be able to stand out. So as you refine your approach and implement the techniques that I've shared here today, you'll find that your career advancing is your ability to communicate effectively, which will distinguish you from your peers. Again, any questions you have on this, do let me know. And watch this again, take some notes of the strategies and the techniques that I've shared with you today. Go away and practice them in front of a mirror, practice them with a colleague perhaps, or a friend that you can trust who will give you some critical feedback that was helpful for you to be able to improve and enhance your presentation style. I'd love to hear your takeaways from this, your biggest insight, your biggest learning, and any gaps that you might have identified that is now the time for you to develop and work on. Until next time, same place next week. Remember to harness your potential, to elevate your performance, and to strive towards your personal and professional growth. Pursue that next role, that next promotion, that next opportunity. I invite you to do so by showing up as the best version of you. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already done so. And if you enjoyed and gained value from today's episode, then do please leave a review telling us your key learnings and what you enjoyed the most. And do please share this podcast with your friends and colleagues so we can spread the word on life leadership, creating a life of choice, freedom, and new possibilities. Connect with me directly on LinkedIn, and if you would like to learn more about how we can work together, either DM me on LinkedIn or email me. All details and resources can be found in the show notes.